हाँ आलं
दोनों चालू है
आवाज
नहीं उसको तुम्हारा
अभी फेसबुक पे भी चालू फेसबुक भी स्टार्ट होगा दोनों लाइव
अंकित है
शुरू है
म्यूट कर ले मेरे को म्यूट कर
म्यूट
हाँ
स्टार्ट
एक दावे कॉपी तो ये करिए एक दावा निकाल कोई भी एक दावा एक प्लेट की कॉपी ले करते हैं आवाज क्यों नहीं आ रहा है जब नहीं रहा
सर बुक बंद किया हुआ है
वो आएगा बाम्बल ले आएंगे
नहीं सर सेटअप ये है इससे आवाज़ जा रहा है सेटअप आवाज़ जा रहा है सर
आवाज आ रहा दोनों में गूगल में और उसमें।
वो होस्ट रोहित रोहित करोती भी है ना होस्ट।
हाँ
वो करेंगे पहले, बोलिए सर इंट्रोडक्शन।
अच्छा
स्टार्ट। रोहित, हाँ जी 2 मिनट में लॉगिन किया है मैंने, 2 मिनट में।
2 मिनट की बात करने के लिए
बात करें।
कौन आएगा? बम्बड़ लेगा?
आइए आइए।
आएगा बम्बड़?
नहीं सर आवाज़ आ रही
दोनों बुक 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 बुक
स्टार्ट।
अच्छा इंट्रो
सर इंट्रोडक्शन।
चालू नहीं हुआ, 5 बज के 8 मिनट हो गए ना।
बार बोल।
No serious. Smile. 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 Smile.
स्माइल स्माइल।
चेहरा का जो होना और स्माइल होना चेहरे पे। और
Good afternoon, everybody. My wife has just reminded me that I should smile. Smile to everybody. I will show the book which I have written. This is the first book which I have written on the rejection of plaint under Order 7, Rule 11. Then the second book is Law of Pleading with all formats of the plaint and written statement. And third book is on the Law of Notices. Today the subject is Order 7, Rule 11. I will start the judgment of Justice Krishna Iyer, who in the year 1977, a case when came before him, he was shocked. The tenant, he contested the suit for possession. He lost. Then he again lost in the appellate court and in the high court. Then there was an execution. But what he has done is that he set up his son, who again filed a suit. And then in that suit he again takes some time. The suit was filed on the ground that the degree which has been obtained up to the appeals court was obtained by playing a fraud. The second suit, he got an injunction, temporary injunction, which was vacated. Matter went to the High Court. In the High Court, the High Court judge has tried to compromise the matter, wanted to give him some more time to vacate. But on the next date, that mischievous fellow made a statement before the High Court judge that he has applied for transfer of the case from that High Court judge. That High Court judge could not sleep. Then he maintained himself, decided the matter, and it is in this case, the Krishna Iyer in the year 1977 warned the litigants, cautioned the advocates, and hoped that the Bar Council of India will activate its obligation by directing its members, advocates, to screen wholly fraudulent, irrelevant, frivolous, vexatious litigation, and then only to accept it. And he also advised the judges that they should be activities judges. And in spite of said caution, warning, the matter has deteriorated further much. What inspired me to write this book is that I have been appearing for plaintiff and degree holders. But from last 5 years, I am so disturbed that in every degree I am facing re-litigation, bogus vexatious litigation, and I am constrained to say the judges should have axed the said second litigation in the first hearing, but the JD are successful in gaining the time. Ultimately, degree holder gets the possession. That inspired me to write the book, to act such cases. Now, so far as the topic is concerned, Order 7, Rule 11, what today is happening from last 5 years, Supreme Court has observed, I am not observing anything, it has been held by Supreme Court, that the litigants the mischievous, unscrupulous litigants, they think that filing a suit is just like purchasing a lottery ticket. After purchasing the lottery ticket, he again thinks that he can file a frivolous, meritless, vexatious suit, and then he thinks that the court is a gambling house and a casino, and he then tries to play a game of chess. Of course, there is a element of chance in every litigation if the luck favors, but this is not the way of the court. There is this obligation on the advocates to adopt a noble profession, not for re-litigation, not for frivolous litigation. They can straightway refuse, but the difficulty with some of the colleagues, when I started it was a noble profession, but now the advocates are struggling for their existence, what it may be. I was on the point how the houses are treated by the builders, by the unscrupulous litigations, and which has inspired me to write this book. Now, coming to the topic directly, if we read Order 7, Rule 11, I will request one thing. I will pause for 1 minute. I will request all my colleagues who are hearing me to keep a book with a caption Order 7, Rule 11. You can take out a CPC, and from that CPC you can keep before you the Order 7, Rule 11. That will help you to understand what I want to say and what the law says. Just I will taking a pause so as to enable you to have a book of Order 7, Rule 11 before you by taking out any bare act of CPC or even with a commentary. Only you have to keep before you Order 7, Rule 11, because everything is mentioned therein. We are not required to have much for that. Now, so far as the Order 7, Rule 11 is concerned, it starts with the word rejection of plaint. The plaint shall be rejected in the following cases. Now, the word used is shall. There are, again, I will like to say, it's an alphabet A, B, C, D, E, F. It's just a game of alphabet. Now, if we start with the word plaint, what is meant by plaint? Plaint is not defined anywhere in the code. I am referring Civil Procedure Code as a code. Therefore, though it is not defined, we are required to immediately see what is meant by a plaint. Is to see Order 6, Rule 1. Order 6, Rule 1 says, the pleading shall mean plaint or written statement. So it is the word plaint is found for in the Order 6, Rule 1. Then what the plaint should contain? I am telling this because if the plaint is incomplete, it does not contain what is required by Order 6, Rule 2, Order 6, Rule 3, Order 6, Rule 5, or what is required by Order 7, Rule 1, 2, 3, 4, then plaint can be rejected. So I am on the first topic, that is clause number 711A. The foremost thing which we are required to keep in mind, this is a plaint. Then along with the plaint there are documents. What the defendant has to do for rejection, for getting the plaint rejected, he has to show, suppose this plaint contains 500 words with the prayer. then the defendant has to show only with the help of this plaint and documents filed along with the plaint that the suit is does not show the cause of action, or plaint is liable to be rejected as barred by law. He can go beyond the documents filed by the plaintiff and the averments made in the plaint. This is the first and foremost thing which one has to keep in mind. So one may think how it can happen, why the advocate will draft a suit in such a way which can be rejected even by reading the same, by bare reading the same. But there are judges which can find out that this plaint is nothing but a illusion of cause of action. It is not a cause of action but illusion of cause of action. If you go to the pith of the, you don't go by the form, but if you go with the pith and substance of the plaint, you will find that it is the illusion of cause of action. So it can be rejected. I will give the examples after examples how it can be rejected. The first thing which we must understand, that the plaint is not defined. For understanding the plaint, what the plaint should contain and what plaint should not contain, to avoid the rejection or not to avoid the rejection, or to have how it can be rejected. Now the word plaint is not there, but we have to go by Order 6 Rule 2. Order 6 Rule 2. इसमें आवाज आ रहा है, कट 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 कट. I was on the point of Order 6 Rule 2. Every pleading means I have just said plaint and written statement. Every plaint shall contain only a statement in a concise form of material facts. So first I am trying to show what the plaint is. Pleading shall mean plaint and written statement. And pleading should state means plaint should state material facts and not the evidence. Now the material facts, you have to understand what is meant by material facts, which you have to state in the plaint. You have to state in the plaint. So plaint should contain a statement in a concise form of material facts on which the party pleading relies for his claim or defense as the case may be, but not the evidence. It should not contain the evidence. Every plaint should be paragraphed, numbered, and dates and sums should be expressed in the pleadings and the figures. Now, how to draft the plaint, for which the code itself in Appendix A has given 85 forms of different kinds of plaints. Now these forms are part of the code. The forms in Appendix A, Order 6 Rule 3 says that the forms in Appendix A, they are the forms of WS, there are also the forms of the plaint. The forms in the Appendix A, whenever they are applicable, the plaint should be in the said form. And if not applicable, then as far as possible that should be used for all the pleadings. Now, so the forms are given, but these forms are applicable only for the purpose of a civil suit. If you go for the commercial suits, the High Court has amended commercial, they have framed the rules, and the pleading should be in the form as per Order 6 Rule 3A. Pleading should be in the form as per the High Court rules provided under the Commercial Courts Act. Now, I come to Order 6 Rule 4. Order 6 Rule 4 is very important in cases in which the party pleading relies upon any kind of fraud, misrepresentation, breach of trust, willful default, undue influence, coercion, and in all other such cases. It is necessary to give the particulars. These particulars is required beyond the forms given in Appendix A. Now the particulars of fraud, breach of trust, if they are not there, I have already said material facts should be there. In case of the fraud, breach of trust, willful default, undue influence, coercion, the particulars of the fraud should be there. If both are missing, then the suit can be dismissed for not disclosing cause of action under Order 7 Rule 11A. So therefore you have to study what is meant by material facts, what is meant by cause of action, what is meant by material particulars, one by one. Now what the plaint should contain, I have already said material facts, material particulars. In addition thereto, the legislature has given Order 7 Rule A to I. The plaint should contain the name of the court. That is Order 7 Rule 1A. Then Rule 1B, it should contain the name and description of the plaintiff and defendant. His name, his address, his occupation as far as possible. Then it should contain the cause of action, the material facts containing cause of action. Then it should contain the clause of jurisdiction, clause of court fee, the relief which you want to claim. So the others are format. The material thing is the cause of action. The facts constituting cause of action has to be mentioned in the plaint. Otherwise, the plaint will be lacking in material particulars or the material facts, and it can be dismissed. Now, the Order 7 Rule 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, they provide as to what particulars should be mentioned. Order 7 Rule 2 is for a money suit. In a money suit, you should give the exact amount, appropriate amount. If suppose money suit is for the accounts or for the means profit, then you should say the estimated amount which may be due in account suit or a partnership account suit or simple account suit or in a suit for means profit. Approximate amount has to be given. Then we go by Order 7 Rule 3. When the subject matter is immovable property, you should give the identification of the property, because otherwise the problem will come to you in the execution. I am happy to inform you, Justice Ghoge has given a decision in 2019 that if there is no compliance of Order 7 Rule 3, then plaint should not be registered by COC. He should keep it in objection unless the compliance is made. What compliance has to be made? The property should be identified, boundaries should be given, house number should be given, survey number should be given, and in case of encroachment, there is a Bombay Amendment to Order 7 Rule 3 which requires that in case of encroachment, you must give the map. We find that maps are not filed, the identification are incomplete. Then the superintendent, because the copy of judgments by Justice Ghoge, it was sent to all the courts throughout Maharashtra with direction that it should be kept before the principal district judge, who said circulate to all judges and to COC and explain him that he should not register the plaint unless there is the compliance of Order 7 Rule 3. It will be kept pending. Now, if you, as per Order 7 Rule 4, if you are showing in the representative capacity, then you are required to show that you have existing interest in the subject matter. And then Order 7 Rule 5, you are required to show what is the interest of defendant in the subject matter of the suit. What is his liability, how he is liable. If he has purchased the goods on credit, you have to state how he is liable. Then Order 7 Rule 6 provides that your suit is barred by limitation and you want to take the benefit of Section 14 of the Limitation Act, then you have to give the grounds for exemption. And then as per Order 7 Rule 7, the relief to be specifically stated. You should state what relief or alternative relief you want to claim. It should be very specific. And if there are different causes of action or different reliefs, then you should mention these. You should devote one paragraph for each of the cause of action. Now, by the way, these are the requirements, because the requirements is, in short, material facts. If you want to rely on the fraud and coercion, material particulars, and then order 7 itself. Now, if you go by the provisions of counterclaim, because counterclaim is also a plaint, as per order 8 rule 6a, it is a plaint, it is a countersuit, and all the rules which I have just said, order 6, order 7, are applicable to the counterclaim. Now there has been much controversy on the when the counterclaim can be filed, when it can be filed, in respect of which subject matter it can be filed. So the matter was referred to the full bench. I say three bench. It was a reference judgment in the matter of Ashok Kumar Kalra versus Wing Commander Agnihotri 2019. It is not. It has been reported only in the scale 2019 scale 544. I will again say Ashok Kumar Kalra case. They have let down. I am covering this topic because counterclaim is a plaint. It laid down 3 embargoes. It says, firstly, it says, I am on the point of counterclaim. It says that counterclaim can be filed before filing of the WS or even after filing of the WS. But it cannot be filed after framing of the issues. This is the new law which has been given by the 3-bench judge after discussing more than 100 judgments. In the reference court has given that counterclaim, because there was a controversy when it can be filed, when it cannot be filed. Now the counterclaim cannot be filed after framing of the issues, but till framing of the issues, counterclaim can be filed. Now the other question is, so far so good, you can file it, but there is one more restriction, that the counterclaim should be in respect of the cause of action. Cause of action should arise or arose, should have arisen either before filing of the suit or before filing of the WS. It can be after filing of the suit. Suppose there is a tenant, he has done something, landlord has damaged his part, or has sent the goons, or has made the holes and pouring the water, but it should happen. It may happen before filing of the suit, or it may happen after filing of the suit, but before filing of WS. The cause of action should be either before or before filing of suit or before filing of WS. This is the second requirement. Now the third is it should be within limitation. Once you say it is a suit, if it is deemed to have been filed on the date when the counterclaim is presented. So if the law which are applicable to plaint are also applicable to counterclaim, it should be within limitation as per the Limitation Act. If it is beyond limitation, it can be rejected under Order 7 Rule 11D. Then fourth thing is, it is not restricted to money claim. You can file any claim or any sort of claim which can be subject matter of the counterclaim, which may not relate to the suit. Any independent, in respect of which you can file a independent suit against the defendant, you can file a counterclaim in respect of the same matter, because it is a cross suit. So this is what has been done in the case of Ashok Kumar Kalra, and the matter, this judgment has clarified everything on the counterclaim, and ultimately after giving the judgment, it was resent to the division bench, who in turn dismissed the counterclaim on the ground that it was filed after framing of the issues. Though is what in respect of cause of action. Now, it is in this context now we are required to see what is meant by cause of action. I have already stated. I will give 3-4 examples. Suppose a suit is filed by a tenant against the landlord. He files a suit with the contention that the defendant who is a landlord, is trying to interfere with my possession, and he has done some overt act of damaging the property, or by making the holes in the roof, or by pouring the water, or by sending the goons who are threatening me that I should vacate. So, if he comes with that case, then what are the material facts which he should plead? If he don't plead, he will go, suit may go under Order 7 Rule 11, not disclosing cause of action. He should first plead that he is a tenant. Then he should plead, these are the material facts. Then he should plead that he is a tenant from so many, this is the suit tenanted premises with boundaries. Then he must state he has paid the rent from this date, what is the rate of rent, and his month of tenancy begins from so and so. Then he must state that on this day he has made the holes, and from that day he is pouring the water, or that on this day he has damaged. These are the overt acts done by the defendant, because unless there is any overt act by defendant, there cannot be cause of action. They are interconnected. Then you should mention that this has happened, and that will give you an idea then what relief you want. So these are the material facts which are required to be pleaded in a suit between a landlord and by a tenant against a landlord to claim an injunction. The relief he be granted the relief. So these are the material facts. If any of the facts are missing, then you are out. I will give a second example. What should be pleaded? What are the material facts to be pleaded in the suit for partition? First of all, you should give the genealogical tree, giving the relationship between the plaintiff and defendant. Then you should show this is the property, whether this is ancestor property, self-acquired property, compulsory property, the nature of property, and then devolution of property, how it involved from your ancestors or it is joint family property. That has to be given in detail. These are the material facts. Then after that you have to give what is your share. Then after that you have to state. What you have to state is that I have demanded the partition on this date by issuing a notice or otherwise, and he refused to partition the property. Therefore, this is my cause of action for filing a suit for partition. Then you have to claim the relief. So the material facts, you have mentioned everything. Now, if suppose the defendants come with a will that this property was self-acquired property of Mr. So and so, of my father, and he has made a will in my favor, then one is required, plaintiff is again required to file a rejoinder or amendment application, and to show to the court how the will, if he wants to challenge the will, he can challenge execution, legality, validity, enforceability, or even signature of the will. Here comes the particulars. You have to give the particulars of everything. The burden is upon you to show the will which has been set up by the defendant is not genuine. Then you have to give the particulars. You have to give the particulars that she was ill, she was not in a disposing state of mind, she could not understand. The signature is not tallying with signature which is appearing as her usual signature, whatsoever it may be. So these are the material particulars, because you want to say that there is a fraud in bringing into existence the will. You want to say that will is not genuine. So these are the particulars. And if these particulars are missing, suppose you file a plaint on the basis of will, particulars are missing, then your plaint can be rejected or has to be rejected. So now I again to third example. Suppose you want to file a suit for a specific purpose of contract. What are the material facts which you should plead? The material facts are, this is the agreement of sale. Material facts, how to be pleaded, has been given in form number 47 and form number 48 in the appendix A to a schedule of the court. Now, what you have to state, as mentioned in that form, that this is agreement of sale was, defendant is the owner of the property. Agreement of sale was entered into between on this date. The copy of the agreement of sale is annexed. Then this is the description of the property. The defendant has agreed to sell the property for rupees 1 lakh or rupees 10 lakhs. And then we have to state that this is the date fixed for execution of sale deed. and then you have to say that on that day I was present in the office of sub-registrar, but he did not turn up. This is the cause of action. And all these facts which I mentioned is the material facts. So that will give you a cause of action to file a suit for specific performance of contract. Now I will quote one example. In spite of this, the example is of the case of the famous case of Church of Christ. In Church of Christ, what happened? The case was before Supreme Court. The plaintiff filed a suit, and his contention was that defendant number 1 society is the owner, and defendant number 1 has entered into an agreement of sale and has given a power of attorney to defendant number 2. And on the basis of that agreement of sale, the defendant number 2 has entered into an agreement of sale with the plaintiff, and the plaintiff files a suit with this contention. The application was filed by the defendant number 1 that plaintiff be rejected. Why? Because he has not given the date of agreement of sale. He has not given the date of power of attorney. Society is saying that he has not filed the copy of the agreement of sale. He has not filed the copy of the power of attorney. So there is no complete cause of action. The plaintiff is not disclosing cause of action. The Supreme Court, in the strong words, rejected the plaint because they says there is a violation of the form number 47 and 48, number 1. Number 2, that if it does not contain the date of the agreement of sale, which is a material fact, then the copy of the agreement of sale ought to have been filed as required by Order 7 Rule 40 of the court. So they have rejected the plaint. So there are so many examples where the plaints are rejected in this way because the material facts are missing. Nowadays, I could see so many suits drafted by juniors without containing any details, but neither material facts nor particulars of any fraud or misrepresentation. That will not help you, and that may cause the rejection of the plaint under Order 7 Rule 11A. Now, before going to other issues, I would like to point out at this stage, which will cover both the issues. The recent case law on the point of 711A is a case of Dahi Bain, which has been reported, Dahi Bain versus Arvind Bhai, which has been reported in 2002 online Supreme Court 634. What happened in this case? Here the plaint was rejected by the Supreme Court on the ground that it does not disclose cause of action, and also on the ground that it is barred by limitation. What happened in that case? The property was situated at Surat. The plaintiff, he was the owner, but there was a tenure restriction for the sale without the permission of the collector. The collector was pleased to, he applied for grant of permission. Collector was pleased to grant him the permission to sell the property only for rupees 1.5 crore and odd. He sold the property to defendant number 1 for that amount, and collector has also mentioned in his order that all the amount should be paid by checks. He gave the purchaser, defendant number 1, gave 36 checks. Now he has given the possession. There is no any other condition in the sale deed. There is a condition that he has received the consideration. Then after 5.5 years, he filed a suit. By the time he has the purchaser, defendant number 1, has already sold the property. Then when the suit came before Supreme Court, there were 3 questions. It was on the point of rejection of plaint. The High Court was pleased to reject the plaint. Trial Court was also pleased to reject. 3 points were there. Whether there is any cause of action for the suit, whether the suit filed after 3 years, that is after 5 years, is within limitation, and whether if there is no condition in the sale deed regarding the revoking of the sale deed for non-payment of dishonoring of the check. So all these 3 points were decided. Supreme Court has held, firstly, that he has received a check. For 5.5 years, he has not made any complaint. Secondly, Supreme Court said that the property has been mutated in the name of defendant number 1 on the basis of a sale deed, of which the notice was given to the plaintiff. He has not taken any objection. Then why he has not filed those checks before the court to show that they were in dishonor? So the court has held ultimately, and the property has already been sold to defendant number 2. And his suit was, court has said that his suit is only for cancellation of sale deed. Why he has not filed a suit for refund for the consideration, which he wants that he wants to show that he has not received, check were dishonored. He has not filed that suit. So the plaintiff was rejected by holding that the plaintiff has no cause of action, having sold the property, for filing a suit for cancellation. At the most, he could file a suit for the consideration, this part of consideration not received, which he has not filed. Then the court also said he has to claim a declaration that the sale deed is not binding or void, it be cancelled, set aside, for which, as per Article 58 and 59, the limitation is 3 years. So it is barred by limitation. Then the court has also held that he has no cause at all for filing this suit. And above all, court not only dismissed the suit, not only rejected the plaint under 711A D, but imposed a cost of rupees 1 lakh. This is how the view has been. This is the recent view I am telling of 2020 by the Supreme Court. Then again, before going to the other topics, I want to highlight the recent decisions so that you can are able to understand the important implication of Order 7 Rule 11. The other rulings which has an impact on Order 7 Rule 11A can be seen from the other rulings. The famous ruling on this point is, which I am trying to say, was one is of Sonia Gandhi and one of Rajiv Gandhi. Harishankar Jain versus Sonia Gandhi. What happens? These rulings under 711 are founded in election petitions, but the Supreme Court has again held that law Order 7 Rule 11 is applicable to election petition as well as to the suits in the same manner. So in the case of Harishankar Jain versus Sonia Gandhi, the petition was filed challenging the election on the ground that she is not a citizen of the India. Then court, Sonia Gandhi applied for rejection of the plaint, which was rejected by Supreme Court on the ground that he has not challenged the citizenship. She has acquired citizenship 20 years ago. He has never gone in the office. He has never challenged citizenship. And now how he can challenge citizenship in the election petition without taking any objection? Her name should not have been included in the voter list, and therefore he has no cause of action. Similarly happened in the case of the Rajiv Gandhi, Azhar Hussain is the famous case of 1986, 1253, where also the bad allegations were made of the misrepresentation, undue influence, and all sorts of allegations, but without any particulars. He has done the correct practices, वगैरह. Here also the plaintiff was rejected for not stating the material facts and material particulars which are required to be stated in every case in detail, because it is not very simple to plead the fraud as we do in the murder case. Every event has to be explained in the somewhat similar way, maybe in mild way. You have to explain how the fraud, how the conspiracy was held, how the fraud was paid, how the misrepresentation was made. So it is in this way. Then I will quote one more example of cause of action. That is the famous case of Fatehji and Company, 2015 Supreme Court. Here also what happened? a date was fixed for execution of a sale deed. But the sale deed could not be executed without the permission of the government. Permission could not be obtained. The date was even extended for 6 months. Permission could not be obtained. But he had not filed a suit. He filed a suit after 5 years or 7 years. That now he has got permission is there. Supreme Court rejected the plaint on the ground that there is no provision in the agreement for extension of the time for execution of sale deed, on the ground that till the permission is not granted, it will. So he could file a suit. He could file a suit with a direction claiming a preliminary degree that as and when permission is granted, the sale deed should be executed. And the suit was rejected by on the ground that he has no cause of action. His cause of action has come to an end. So this is a case of Fatehji. Then there was also a question of whether there is a cause of action in a premature suit. It is again a different story of premature suit. The law has been settled that the plaint can be rejected under Order 7 Rule 11A if you filed a premature suit. Suppose your lease is going to expire after 3 months. You filed the suit prior to 3 months. Then that law is, but that view has again been changed slightly by Justice Lahoti in the case of Vittalbhai and Union of India. And court said now the suit has matured by 3 months has passed and no periodicy is going to cost. And then the tests were laid down. If there is no periodicy, there is a bar. Though Vittalbhai still prevails. Then I will also show one example regarding the cause of action. The suit was filed by the bank by contending that the ITC Limited company has, without sending the goods to the purchaser, has presented a bill of demand to the bank on the basis of a letter of credit and received the amount, and therefore he filed a suit for recovery, and purchaser has refused to pay the amount, and therefore he filed a suit against the ITC company as well as the purchaser. ITC company made an application under 7 Akra. High Court has refused to reject the plaint. Then matter went to Supreme Court. Supreme Court said that bank has no cause of action against the ITC. He has cause of action only against that purchaser. You have given a bank guarantee. He has presented the bill. If the case could have been such that the documents produced by the ITC company are forged, there can be so many reasons for breach of contract between the purchaser and the ITC. Maybe false, maybe true. That is to be decided in a suit between them. And the plaint was rejected. And here it was observed that the word fraud has been repeated so many times. The ITC company has played a fraud. He has not sent the goods. He has misrepresented to the bank. But what is the misrepresentation? What is the actual fraud with the bank? Bank is concerned with the documents. If they are not genuine, he played a fraud. Therefore, Supreme Court is pleased to reject the plaint in the case of ITC. Then there was also a case of Hardesh Owers. That is also a famous case. Hardesh Owers and Head and Company. Here, the lease was for 5 years, and after 5 years, the lease was to be renewed. Then the plaintiff company Hardesh Owers filed a suit. He filed a suit for injunction by saying that it should renew. But Supreme Court has held that renewal is a fresh grant, and therefore if he has refused to renew, then the remedy of the plaintiff was to file a suit for specific performance of contract, for directing the defendant to execute a lease deed of 5 years, and not for injunction. And the plaint was rejected on the ground that this relief cannot be. He has no cause of action for claiming injunction. He has a cause of action for claiming a specific performance, which has become barred by time. So this is the Hardesh Owers case. Then there is also famous case of Kamla Aishwarya. Here the preliminary degree for partition was passed. The matter was before Supreme Court. Then after passing of the preliminary degree, the agricultural land was to be divided. Their share were fixed. Everybody has got 1/4 share. What they have done, what the defendant has done, all the plaintiff and defendant, they all together sold their separate shares by making a demarcation and then made an application. A suit has become infructuous because we have sold. Court rejected the application in that case of Kamla and Aishwarya, saying that the suit for partition continues till the property or agricultural land is divided by metes and bounds. You must have said specified share, but court has not specified. You have a share 1/4, agreed. You can sell 1/4 undivided share under section 44 of TP Act, agreed. But how could you sell the specified portion without there being a actual partition by metes and bounds? And therefore he says the suit survives. So the plaint was, here also the application was rejected. Then I will also say how the cause of action has not, there is a case of Waqf property, that is 2017 Supreme Court, Manduri Murthy versus Saeed Jalal. In this case, what happened? A person, third person filed a suit. The property purchased by defendant number 1 from defendant number 2 is a Waqf property, therefore sale deed is void. Waqf board has rejected the plaint. High Court has reversed the judgment, matter went to Supreme Court. Supreme Court says, now we have seen the entire record. From last 100 years, this property is not included in the register of Waqf. And even the board of Waqf have said, this property is not shown as a Waqf property. If that is so from 100 years, and the purchaser has purchased the property, he has no cause of action at all. The plaint is not disclosing any cause of action, and the plaint was rejected for want of cause of action. Then it is in this way. There is also case of Popat Kotecha, Sopan Assistant Charity Commissioner. So there has been so many cases, one after the another. Therefore I say, one should have a material facts and material particulars. What are those material facts and material particulars has to be seen for each and every case. My second book on the law of pleading under Order 6, 7 and 8 contains 100 forms of different kinds of plaints. How it is to be drafted, how material facts are to be pleaded, and this book I have already shown to you all. It contains 100 forms of different kinds of plaints which are required in the existing situation where you want to plead, want to show a misrepresentation or a fraud or otherwise, or suit for partition, for adoption, for setting aside adoption, tenant landlord, and all these matters which I have annexed, the plaints I have annexed, WS I have annexed, where these cases have been succeeded up to the High Court. The plaint has been accepted up to the High Court and degree has been confirmed on the basis. Those plaints only I have annexed. Now that is how you are required to see the topic of Order 7 Rule 11A, key want of cause of action. The suit can be rejected. How the particulars are to be given. Then there are cases where the plaints were not rejected because there were material particulars, maybe some less. Now for deciding whether the cause of action is there, you are not required to read one para. You have to read the plaint as a whole and then find out whether court should examine. The moment he finds out, no, there is something fishy in the plaint, the judge or the defendant's advocate should point out that there is no cause of action. It does not disclose cause of action and there is an illusion of cause of action. How the illusion is there can be shown and plaint can be get rejected only because repeating the word fraud or all these things. So this is the topic number 1, 711A. Now I come to 711B. B and C are very formal. There are two different provisions. First is that where the relief claim is undervalued. Deliberately the market value is rupees 10 lakhs, it is shown 1 lakh. Then court can require him to correct the valuation. You see, this is a curative relief this is we can say curative type of the provision. A and D are axing the plaint, and B, C, E, F, they are curative. They allow you to get corrected the valuation. Secondly, in D we say when the suit appears from the statement in the plaint. No, sorry, I am on the C, where there is a valuation is proper, but the stamp paper are not given within time. There has been much controversy on this point, how much time the court can give. Therefore, a provision has been added that court should be very strict if the requisite stamp paper are not supplied in granting a time, and if there is a genuine reason is found, a compelling circumstance is found, then only court should grant, and it should not grant for more than 1 month as per 149. But still, court has a power to grant, and court is granting. So this is the how we are required to interpret B and C. They are simple provisions. Now I come to the main provision. Order 7, Rule 11D. Now here 711D is very simple. It reads, the plaint shall be rejected where the suit appears from the statement in the plaint to be barred by any law. So this is the plaint. If suppose there is a plaint, then you have to show from the plaint itself that it is barred by law. Now what is mean by law? How we interpret the word law? The interpretation has been made by the Supreme Court from time to time. Barred by law there will be express bar, there can be implied bar. Then it can be barred by limitation. So there are 3 heads. First head is the express bar, second head is implied bar, third is barred by limitation. Then under limitation there are 2 more heads. First head is whether the plaint can be rejected on the basis of admitted facts. Second is whether the limitation is a mixed question of fact and law. If it is a mixed question of fact and law, the plaint cannot be rejected. If on the admitted position we can show to the court, then it can be rejected. Now, so we have to deal the different aspect. I will explain one by one what is meant by express bar. Express bar, the enactment itself provides. There is one section in the act itself that no civil court shall have jurisdiction, or this order of competent authority cannot be challenged in the civil court. So it is express bar means it is expressly mentioned by incorporating in the separate section barring jurisdiction of civil court. So that is called as express bar. There are hundreds of acts which are enlisted in my book where it is expressly barred by statute itself. Then what is meant by impliedly bar? Implied bar, there is no express bar. It is nowhere mentioned if the civil court shall not be tenable. But the act provides for the rights and remedies. Acts provide the way of the remedies, as we see in the municipal acts. There are so many acts where there is the implied bar, because if suppose municipality make an assessment, that assessment has to be challenged by filing a first appeal before the commissioner. Then not satisfied, you can file appeal before the civil judge senior division. You cannot file a suit. So this is the remedy. A particular remedy is given, and particular rights are given. In that, if it is given, then you have to exhaust in that manner, and therefore it is impliedly barred, because there is another statute which is providing you the rights and remedies. That is called implied bar, as in we see in municipal acts and other acts. There are remedies. Then there we come to the third head, that is barred by limitation. Now barred by limitation, question of fact and question of law. Here there can be admitted facts. Now if you go by the barred by limitation, express bar, implied bar are very simple to understand. But here when the case is regarding the facts to be mentioned, then limitation, there has been a controversy on this point. In the case of Kamalakar Salunke 2015 Supreme Court, it was held, I will just say, because it is on the point of limitation, I am taking the limitation point first. It was held, the limitation is not a question of jurisdiction, and therefore it is a mixed question of, in general, in most of cases it is a mixed question of fact and law. Therefore claim cannot be rejected, or preliminary issue cannot be framed or decided when there is a mixed question of fact and law. But that judgment was overruled in the case of force share 2015. So Kamalakar Salunke, then comes force share, which says the question of limitation is a question of jurisdiction, and the plaint can be rejected under Order 7 Rule 11D or under 9A then was. Then under the matter was referred, in view of the conflicting decisions of 2-division bench, matter was referred to the full bench of 3-bench judge in the case of Nasli Wadia. That in the case of Nasli Wadia, we can see while deciding this question, they have simply said in one word in Nasli Wadia कि limitation, unless the court has jurisdiction to decide whether the suit is within limitation or not, that jurisdiction the court has inherent. If that jurisdiction is there, then it cannot be said that limitation is a question of jurisdiction. So limitation is not a question of jurisdiction. But while discussing this point, they have discussed so many points. They have overruled the case of the foreshore, wherein several judgments were referred and were held to be obiter dicta, including the judgment of Pandurang Chaugule and others. Court has said they are not obiter dicta. They are the correct decision, and the law is now very much fixed when the plaint can be rejected under 711D, and how, when it cannot be rejected, when there is a mixed question of fact and law. But court has said, if the facts are admitted, if the plaint shows that it is a barred by law, then it can be rejected even under 711D or by failing a preliminary issue. This is what the law has been. They have overruled. I think they have, in that Nasli Wadia case, they have overruled more than 20 decisions of the Bombay High Court and Supreme Court. In all, 20 has been overruled and was held. Right? It is a mixed question of fact and law, no preliminary issue. You have to go for trial. There cannot be 2 trials. There should be 1 trial, and therefore it should be decided along with the suit. And if the plaint shows that it is barred by limitation, then the court can take up that matter, maybe under 711D or as a preliminary issue. And the court has also said they have developed both the branches, discussed all the case law on 711D and 711A, summarizing it from 1977 to 2019. Some of the cases which they have discussed while deciding this Order 711D, I will show only few, how when the suit was held to be barred by limitation on a question of admitted facts. The first is we have just seen the Dahiben case where it was held to be barred by limitation. There are cases a gift deed was made and suit was filed after 10 years, and holding that I believed him, all these things were, court rejected the plaint. So sale deed was made and suit was filed after 15 years, plaint was rejected. Suit for specific performance was filed after the expiry of the time by twisting the real facts and showing the illusion of cause of action. The plaint was rejected, being barred by limitation. there are examples after examples which will show how the suit is barred by limitation and has been rejected. There is a case of gift deeds, sale deeds, specific performance suits, then price of extra items. So many examples can be said when the suit is barred by limitation. What the real trouble starts when the suit is filed only for a declaration, which is limitation is only 3 years. But again, there is a controversy on this point. If you claim a possession with declaration, then the Article 50 may not apply, and limitation is 12 years from the date when the other side defendant has claimed the adverse possession. So that is again to be seen from the facts of the each case. Then expressly barred, if you go, I will just show some of the enactments, how it is expressly barred. There. If you go on reading the cases, it will take much time. Therefore, I am only pointing out some the prime acts. The suit is barred if there is arbitration agreement. If you file a suit, it is barred under the provisions of Arbitration Act, Section 8. Then suit is barred if there is a advocate is punished under the Advocate Act. Suit is barred. Then the municipal corporation, the government of Maharashtra introduced 3 sections. One in the Maharashtra Municipal Council Act, another in the Maharashtra Provincial Municipal Corporation Act, and third in the Mumbai Municipal Corporation Act. So all these 3 sections are having a same wording. They have said any order which is passed for demolition by a designated officer cannot be challenged by filing a civil suit or other legal proceedings. So these are the bars which are created. Of course, I will come later on to whether what we should do when there is a bar. So there are, apart from that, there is a bar in the code itself. Civil Procedure Code itself, Section 12 says that if any of the rules under the Civil Procedure Code provides that suit is barred, then it is barred. Section 11 bars the suit. Then Section 12 says that if rules provides, it is barred. Then Order to Rule 2 bars the suit. If the suit is dismissed in default, it is barred. If you withdraw the suit under Order 23, it is barred. Withdraw the suit without permission, it is barred. Then if you want to take any objection in execution, you cannot file a suit. Suit is barred because all the questions arising out of execution has to be decided in a suit. So suit is barred. Then again, equis satyannu, if you file objection which is adjudicated, then suit is barred. So these are the provisions where the suit is barred by the code itself. Then Benami Transaction Prohibition Act, suit is barred. There was an amendment to the Benami. Previously, suit, there were 2 exceptions that suit could be filed. If it is a co-partner property, co-partner, and it is held by the as a trustee. So these 2 clauses which were exception has been deleted now, and the simple proposition is that suit will not lie when there is a Benami Transaction Act. If you want to say contain that I am the owner, real owner, which cannot be now said. So with all these, suit is also barred under Section 6 for restitution. So all these provisions in the code, 144(2) bars the suit. Order 9, Rule 9 bars the suit. So the code itself bars the suit, and thereafter if we go by the other acts, we see Constitution of India. Constitution of India also bars the suit. The first bar is by Article 131(3)63, because the original jurisdiction is with the Supreme Court when there is the dispute between 2 states or center and or state government. Then they amended the constitution by incorporating section 243(o) and 243(z), by which the court cannot interfere, civil court cannot interfere in any electoral matters of the municipalities, gram panchayat or local self government. in the electoral matters, civil court has no jurisdiction. You have to go by the remedy provided under the act. So these are the constitutional bars given. Then there are Electricity Act have also barred. When we started a practice 40 years ago, all kinds of suit used to lie in the civil court. Civil court, maybe under the against the MACB, maybe of workman compensation, maybe under the employer. But by passing of time, the jurisdiction of civil court has been shrinked from time to time by providing other remedies. Now, so far as the bar is concerned, every act nowadays is providing for the remedies under the act and barring jurisdiction of civil court. So far as bar is concerned, we are required to see the section 9, because for understanding suit is expressly and impliedly barred, we are also required to see section 9, which says the court shall, subject to the provision contained herein contained, means provision contained in the code, which I have already said, section 11, 12, order to rule 2 and order of the vis. So the says the court shall have jurisdiction to try all the suits of civil nature. All, first they have given you all a gate has been, a flood or a door has been opened for all the suits. But by next sentence, a door has been closed by saying the court shall have jurisdiction to try all the suits of a civil nature, excepting suits of which the cognizance is expressly or impliedly barred. So we have got a long list of express bar, we have also a long list of implied bar. So here we have to read 711D, bar by statute, implied bar by statute, bar by limitation, mixed question of fact and law, and then we are required to see how it is expressly or impliedly barred, under barred, whether it is barred or not. And there are two explanations to section 9, which provides that so far as the religious rights are concerned, they can be tried by a civil court. I will come to that chapter again when I come to that. So there have been so many tribunals. We used to file the suit against the railways also, but it is also now barred. Then there is a bar of jurisdiction. Apart from them, the question which I have already said, there is one more bar. Express bar, there is one more topic of the express bar, which has been not noted by many of the advocates, and that is, you cannot file a suit without giving a statutory notice. Suppose you want to file a suit against the government for recovery of the rent which you have rented out to the government, and you have filed a suit for recovery of rent without issuing a notice under section 80. Suit is bound to be dismissed because it is barred by section 80, because there is one more caption or a head that without giving a statutory notice you cannot file a suit. That means suit is barred for want of giving a notice, which are sine qua non. Now there are so many acts. If you want to file a suit within the Careers Act, you have to intimate within 6 months or give a notice within 6 months. If you don't intimate or give a notice within 6 months, you file a suit, it is barred. It is barred, no exception. No exception. Section 80, if you want to claim a urgent relief, there is a provision for dispensing with the notice. So there are so many acts. I will just point out a few of such acts where notice is a must, which you must note. Of course, there are two exceptions to it when there is urgency in the matter. You want to claim some injunction, and the act which is purported to be done by the authority is not in presence of that particular act, maybe a Municipal Corporation Act, maybe a APMC Act, or is illegal. So we see in Cooperative Societies Act, if any act is not touching the business of the society, then you can file a suit without notice. But if it is touching to the society, then you can ultimately that will decide on the merit. By that time, other remedies are barred. Therefore, as far as possible, one should give a notice, statutory notice. Otherwise, your suit will be dismissed only on the technical ground that suit is barred. Unless the court holds otherwise that the act done was very illegal. Now, I am pointing out Section 55 of the Maharashtra PMC Act. Notice is must. Section 11 of the Arbitration Act for appointment of arbitration. Notice is must, without which you cannot go further. Then notice under Section 10 of the Careers Act, which is a must. Notice under Section 80 of the Code, where you do not want to claim a urgent relief. Section 164 of the Maharashtra Public Societies Act. If it is touching to the business of society, you cannot file a suit without a notice. Then notice of termination of agency under Section 206 of Contract Act is a must. Then Section 304, if you want to file a suit against the municipal council, you have to give a notice, excepting in the case of injunction. But of course, then Section 527 of the Bombay Municipal Corporation Act, then 487 of the Maharashtra Corporation Act, Section 43, 30, 32 of the Partnership Act, 33, 45 of the Partnership Act, Section 106 of the Railways Act, Section 14 of the Maharashtra Rent Control Act. You cannot file a suit without giving a notice. It may fail. Then Section 15 of the Maharashtra Rent Control Act, where without notice you cannot file a suit. Then Section 52 of the Sale of Goods Act, Section 106 of TP Act, Section 111G3 of the Transfer of Property Act, Section 14A, then Section 109 of the Transfer of Property for notice for attornment. He may attorn, he may not attorn, but notice has to be given. Section 111G for forfeiture, notice has to be given, and Section 180 of the Maharashtra Village Panchayat Act. So there are, you have to concentrate that my suit should not be barred. So the bar will also be attracted under, because it is barred by law. Law is that notice should be given, so it is barred. Then it is in this context we are again required to see whether impliedly barred. I have the main cases of Munshiram Municipal Committee. Then there is also case of Bata Shoe Company, where the octroi was recovered by twice from the Bata Shoes Company. Then he filed a suit. Court held no, it is implied bar because you had got a remedy of resorting by filing an appeal under the Municipal Council Act. That was a suit against the Jabalpur Municipal Corporation. Then in the Punjab Municipal Act, this is implied bar. So these are the bars which are applicable. Then there is one more bar. Suppose plaintiff file a suit, suppresses the material documents, suppresses the material facts, and here we are restricted under Order 7 Rule 11 that we can only read the plaint and document with the plaint and nothing more. Then how the suit can be dismissed? By showing that he played a fraud. For that you have to plead in your WS and file documents. 7-11 is not applicable. For under 7-11 you cannot get his suit dismissed on the ground that he played a fraud, he suppressed the material facts. Here comes the bar of suit by the judicial dicta, that is barred by the precedent of the Supreme Court laid down under Article 141 of the Constitution of India. We have seen in case of Siddiqui, Ayodhya's case, the court has used the power under 141 and gave a decision that that suit filed by an idol or by a shebet or even by a Gurudwara Mandir is tenable under Section 9, is not barred under Section 9 or any other provisions, and suit was held to be tenable. Even idol can file a suit, even Ram Lalla can file a suit, even shebet through Lalla can file a suit. So this is in this way. I was on the point that these are the precedent of the Supreme Court. Now the famous case on this point is, which we are quoting every day in every court, and court has very much, that is SP Chenga, that is Fulis Chenga Velu Naidu, Jagannath AR 1994 Supreme Court 853. This is the case where the Supreme Court has laid down the precedent to the effect that if the plaintiff has played a fraud, in this case plaintiff played a fraud, suppressed that there was a compromise, that there was a preliminary degree wherein he has surrendered the rights. So the court said, if you are coming to the court, you should come with the clean hands. And if you don't come with the clean hands and suppresses the material facts, the party should be thrown out of the court. How? By rejecting the plaint. So this is another, I have already expressed bar, implied bar, a bar by a judicial precedent. There has been cases. I have got here cases after cases. Then there is a case of Bhargavi Construction, T. Vijendra, Vishal Kalsaria. So all these cases are there where by showing because fraud is no ground for rejection of plaint, that he suppressed the facts and he played a fraud. Then where you will get it? You will get it under the precedent of the Supreme Courts. Now I will come to another thing. Very interesting. Now what happens? Now I have said that suit is barred without giving a notice. Suit is barred, express bar. Suit is impliedly barred. Then I have said suit is barred by the judicial dictas under 141 of Constitution of India. Question again comes. There are instances. Now I am coming on different aspect or different heading or different chapter, that where the suit is tenable in spite of express and implied bar. We have to start from the case of Dhulabai. Dhulabai has relied upon several decisions of Supreme Court, but we have to start from Dhulabai. Then we have to come to the case of Mafatlal. Then you have to go to the case of Nasli Wadia. This is how the law has evolved. There is the evolution of society. Similarly, there is the evolution of the law. Now, how it can be done? How in Dhulabai's case, there was no provision for refund of the tax, of sale tax. Suit was filed. He said the suit is barred under this provision. Though provision could be pointed out, and then they have given the list. When the suit is barred, if you are not complied with the statutory provisions of the enactment under which you have passed the order. So a very limited scope was given in the Dhulabai case. Then we go further. There has been shrinking of jurisdiction of civil court. There has been a expansion of jurisdiction of the different tribunals, authorities, competent authorities, one by one. That being so, then I said how the law is evolved. That law was evolved in the case of Mafatlal Industries, where against Union of India, where the court has held for the first time exhaustively, if there is a jurisdictional error on the part of the authority, then the civil court has jurisdiction. Now the question is, what is meant by this jurisdictional error? They have given the list. List has been further modified from time to time. In Mafatlal case, the list, if the authority who has got a power, he may be a revenue court, he may be municipal authorities, or even he may be a custom authorities. He has got a power, but he is not following the fundamental principle of judicial procedure. He is not giving even show cause notice and passing the order in violation of principles of natural justice. He is not acting as per the statute, or he is making an inquiry, giving a decision. But in inquiry, he takes into consideration the extraneous materials, or the materials he does not take into consideration the material which he ought to have taken. He is acting against the statutory provisions. He is not supplying the documents on the basis of which he is passing the order. So these are the jurisdictional error. They are enormous. There can be. So if there is a jurisdictional error, then the civil court has jurisdiction in spite of express or implied bar. So this has been explained in the Mafatlal case. The new concept of judicial error coming from the case of animistic case of the UK, Lords of House. Now this judicial error has been further developed in the matter referred in the case of that I have shown Forshore and the Kamlakar Salunke, Nasli Wadia's case. They have one by one said how and what are the judicial errors. And they have enlisted. If there is a judicial error, then the civil court has jurisdiction in spite of bar. I will show one example. I have already stated that by one stroke, the Maharashtra Municipal Council Act, the Maharashtra Provincial Municipal Corporation Act, now it is Maharashtra Municipal Corporation Act, and Mumbai Municipal Corporation Act was amended by incorporating a new section, and by the officer who used to pass the order, they have turned as a designated officer. They have barred jurisdiction. Same, that civil court shall not entertain the suit in respect to orders of demolition passed under section so and so 189. So now matter came before the High Court. Matter came before the High Court, Bombay Nagpur bench, Bombay bench, because bound to come. Civil suit filed, not tenable. Writ filed, not tenable. The question was asked, where I should go. Then the answer was given by the High Court itself in two cases. Then there has been hundreds of cases saying that as by virtue of the amendment, no remedy is provided for filing appeal or any other forum. Therefore, the civil court has jurisdiction. And they have said, of course, court will have limited jurisdiction. They have limited jurisdiction. So, if they have got a limited jurisdiction, then the court said that if it falls within the jurisdictional error, the court will have jurisdiction in spite of the bar, express bar or implied bar. So this is how the things have happened. Then I will again come to, we have seen Nasli Wadia, we have seen Dahiben, we have seen Ashok Kumar Karla, and there have been so many chapters. It is not possible for me to complete all these chapters and all these things. Therefore, I will again say, judicial precedent we have seen. Only one thing I will explain. Now this is the plaint. I have filed the suit in Amravati court. The bank, the property was mortgaged with the bank. Suit was filed by stating that the property is joint Hindu family ancestral property. I have given the nexus how the property is ancestral property by the grandfathers, and the mortgage was not for legal necessity, and therefore I want a partition. And the mortgage is made to the bank was for satisfying the vices of my father. I got an injunction. Matter went to High Court. What High Court done? High Court has torn my plaint into two pieces, one here and one here. High Court said, your suit for partition is tenable. Your suit for for claiming injunction against the bank is barred by SARFAESI Act. So it was torn in two pieces. Whether that is correct or not, then such type of suits were there. Ultimately, the law has been said in the Madhav Prasad Agrawal's case versus Axis Bank, where such type of suit was filed. The trial, the single bench of the Bombay High Court in its original jurisdiction has held that the suit cannot be rejected, it cannot be torn in two pieces. Plaintiff is rejected as a whole or not at all. That was reversed by division bench. Matter went to Supreme Court. Supreme Court has said, you cannot reject the plaint in part. Maybe some reliefs are barred, some reliefs are not barred. Maybe some part of the relief is barred by limitation, some is not. You have to reject the plaint in whole or not at all. Now I will be finishing by saying that this question was kept open again. So as on today, all the case law which says that the plaint can be rejected in part are under eclipse. by virtue of the decision in the case of Madhav Agrawal versus Axis Bank. So at present we have to take that it cannot be rejected in part at all. Now then what should be done? How if somebody want to, Supreme Court has said in that case of Madhav Prasad, then you go under Order 6 Rule 60, you go under for part rejection of plaint under section 151 or under Order 1 Rule 10. So here also the plaint can be rejected in part 110, 660 for abusing the process of law. By making a person a party against whom you have no cause of action is abusing a process of law, or abusing a process of court. Here it can be rejected. Then again there are two more heads. One is section 151. If you are abusing the process of court, courts come to that conclusion, court can dismiss your suit, reject the plaint. Apart from in 7 akra there is a limitation for the court. In 6-16 there is a limitation against one dependent. 110 limitation against one dependent. In 151 there is no limitation to the court. If the court comes to conclusion, you are abusing, then under 151 it has to be rejected as a whole. So it is in this way. I have tried to keep up my the matters with the recent decisions. Of course, there are so many. In my book, I have given the formats, and you will, of course, as an officer of the court, should screen the plaint and then file it. See that the frivolous, false, bogus suits are not filed. Nobody should think that it's a game of chess, or I am purchasing lottery ticket and I am going in the gambling house and casino taking a chance. What I am incurring is only the rupees cost of litigation. So the cost has to be imposed in such reject by acts such plaints by imposing a heavy cost. This is what the conclusion has to be for the all. Now, if somebody has any questions, I am here. Kaloti wanted me to finish. I have done it within 5 minutes. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you to all who have listened me for such a long time. I have tried to cover all the points. And with these, if somebody has some questions, I am ready to answer. Yes. Now, for which there is a provision, Order 7 Rule 13, which says that if the plaint is rejected under Order 7 Rule 11, that will not prevent you from filing a second suit. Of course, it should not be barred by limitation. Of course, if you are not been able to disclose the cause of action, you should be able to disclose the cause of action in the second suit. But limitation point, you cannot do it. If court fee you are not paid, rejected, you can file a second suit. Because Order 7 Rule 13 itself provides that you can file a second suit. So this is the answer, and which we will find in Order 7 Rule 13. Yes, next. Yes, anybody else? Yes. हाँ 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 नहीं, it will go under this 711D. If on the basis of plaint averment, taking the plaint as it is, I am able to show to the court as a defendant that suit is barred by limitation, then it will be covered under 711D and plaint shall be rejected. If I am able to show, suppose there is a gift deed by a father in favor of a son. After 10 years he files a suit claiming a declaration. It is barred by limitation. So in this way the court can reject it. Straight away reject. There are several cases where the court has rejected the plaint on the basis of averment by holding that it is barred by limitation by taking the plaint as it is, because there is the illusion of cause of action. Somebody, it happens, the revenue authorities, revenue authority has made a mutation day before yesterday, therefore I am filing a suit, but that is not a cause of action. Cause of action is the sale deed which you have executed, therefore it is barred by limitation. Huh. Yes, sir. Ha, yes. Yes. Yes, slightly. You can proceed. Huh? Yes. 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 No, when there is, yes, when there is a misjoinder of causes of action, 711, okay, in cases of misjoinder of causes of action or misjoinder of the parties, plaint cannot be rejected because it is not barred by any law, because the consequences of misjoinder of party is not provided in the code, that if there is a misjoinder the plaint shall be rejected. There should be some provision which should provide that plaint shall be rejected. There is no law providing for such thing, neither by Supreme Court. Yes, एक मिनट, I am not hearing. Please. It is not audible. Hello, now speak. बोल. No, you can have question. Yes. Please ask the question. Yes. Now you see, the matter was referred. Yes, I will just say. Please. I will say matter was referred by a civil judge, senior division, Amalner, that if Tehsildar has therein passed an order for recovery of non-agricultural assessment from which was already paid. He said that you have to pay from last 20 years. Then matter was referred to the full bench of the Bombay High Court, which consisted of Justice A.N. Deshmukh, Justice Sharad Bobde and Justice Lodha, the two Chief Justices of the Supreme Court, where two judges of Supreme Court were party to that judgment, and they were held, if the act of the Tehsildar or revenue authorities is without jurisdiction, or is against the statutory provisions, then the civil court has jurisdiction, and it was held in that case the civil suit is tenable, and the reference was answered in favor of tenability of suit on the reference made by civil judge senior division to the full bench of the Bombay High Court. That is 2017 full bench decision of the Bombay High Court says that civil suit is tenable only if the act of the authority, maybe revenue authority, is without jurisdiction or beyond jurisdiction or beyond the statutory powers. Suit is tenable, but you have to demonstrate the material facts and material particulars and show to the court how this is without jurisdiction. Then only suit is tenable. Only because by saying that suit is tenable is not tenable, because otherwise it will be dismissed for want of cause of action or being barred by law, unless you are able to demonstrate on the face of record that how he has exercised his jurisdiction without jurisdiction in him to do so or has acted against the statutory powers. Then the suit is, even though there is a bar under the Bombay Revenue Jurisdiction Act, the full bench has held a suit is tenable. But for that the facts should be of such a kind. He should, nobody, tomorrow suppose municipal corporation start recovering GST, suit is tenable, because what he is doing is unconstitutional things. Suit is tenable. So it is beyond jurisdiction if he goes, revenue authorities. If he says that I decide the title, it is without jurisdiction. Suit is tenable for title. Yes. Next. Thank you. Concluded.
चलो अजय सर 7 बज गए नहीं? जी सर 7 बजे।
घंटे का 2 घंटे हो गए ना।